we're going to do our segment about atheism and morality. To help us, we have the following point video from Todd Stiefel of the Stiefel Freethought Foundation. Let's take a look.
Hello, my name is Todd Stiefel with the Stiefel Freethought Foundation. My point today is that humanist values are superior to conservative religious values. Mind you, I'm not attacking moderate religious values, but in particular, I am attacking the conservative religious values that have historically been the enemy of humanity, whether it be the attacks on the efforts to gain abolition for slaves, stopping women's rights, stopping LGBT rights, and stopping civil rights, as well as the attack on the advancement of science. You see, conservative religious values are ones that are locked in time. They are not updated. These people have given up their doubts. They've given up questioning. They have values that are anchored in the morals of ancient defunct civilizations. They believe they have an absolute truth and therefore are deserving of absolute power. But we know absolute power corrupts absolutely. They have silenced their inner sense of truth that questions what is right and what is wrong. Humanists, atheists, and other non-religious embrace our doubt. We stand for equality, love, and freedom. We believe in human well-being over dogma, whether it be political or religious. We reject tribalism and accept that we are all cousins in this amazing one human family. To all of the religious people out there, I recommend you reject conservative religious values. And to the non-religious people of America, come out and be proud of your values, because those values are what are going to be saving humanity from fundamentalism. To learn more, please go to www.stiefelfreethoughtfoundation.org.
All right, thank you, Todd Stiefel. And I wanted to note that what he's saying is actually kind of radical, because in the United States, atheists are widely reviled as amoral and nihilistic. And a 2011 study found that people rated atheists as roughly about as trustworthy as rapists.
That's my comfort zone.
Still above Congress, but yet, so what Stiefel's saying is that atheist morality is actually superior to that old-time religion's morality or values. So, Daniele, what do you think? You are an expert in comparative religion. Do you agree with Stiefel's assessment about the difference between humanist and conservative religious values?
Partially.
Partially.
Let me qualify it. No, I agree with him on one point. The idea that conservative religious morality is scary as hell, that's a fact. I mean, anytime you believe you have the direct line to God telling you what to do, what to believe, how to act, as he said, removes all doubt, removes any sense of questioning, because you have the answers. At that point, your entire universe is clear. There's one thing that's good, what you have, and there's everyone else who's wrong, either hopelessly wrong or even evil. So obviously, that's a worldview that creates conflicts, that's shaped on. So yes, those guys are scary motherfuckers, that's a fact, no doubt about it.
Across the board, whether they're Christians or Islamic or Sikh or what have you.
Doesn't matter. The whole totalitarian approach to religion is a scary one, that's for sure.
Could you just say scary motherfuckers again? That really was beautiful.
I would like to hear that.
Such a beautiful language.
I'll make sure to tape it.
So okay, but what about atheists? Why are atheists so much better? Aren't we just sort of making it up as we go along?
That's the part where I agree a little less with him, in the sense that, I mean, I like the way he puts it, is the values he's proposing, I dig. I don't think that that's what everyone who doesn't subscribe to a conservative religious morality is endorsing what he's saying. I like what he's saying, but I don't think that's everybody. So just because you're not in the hardcore conservative religious crowd, it doesn't make you an open-minded, nice person. Right. I know plenty of atheists who are as much as self-obsessed, arrogant assholes as hardcore religious people.
There are some people who would say we have one on the panel. I mean myself, I'm sorry. Well, so what about that, Paul? Do you think that atheists, that Todd is suggesting that atheists are much more open-minded and we accept science and reason and we take that in, or are atheists just as willing to be subjective in their morality as people who are religious will pick and choose what they want to believe based on their dogma or their faith?
You're describing a difference between personality, individual responsibility, and the ideology that Todd is expressing there. In terms of the ideological questions, I agree wholeheartedly with Todd. I believe that, when you do good for good's sake, as opposed to the approval of an imaginary friend or an institution or whatever that is. I think that there's a certain purity to that. It's like the difference between just giving money to charity or buying lottery tickets to win the prize. There is a purity in a morality that comes from a humanist place rather than some need to avoid a punishment or to garner the love and affection of your imaginary friend. I mean, when I do good things, when I sit back and I look at the morality of the way I behave, it's all based on what is appropriate to human beings. It's not for any dogma or doctrine. And I think there is something more valid about that you do good just because you do good, not for any reward, not for any payback in some future imagined existence.
Right, but there are some who would say that you're just sort of making it up as you go along, though. At least when you have religion, you have this book that tells you what's good and what's bad. I know how you refer to God as your imaginary friend. I've read the Bible. He's kind of, I would say, frenemy at best.
At best.
At best.
Well, that's the other thing, is that when you're talking about the Bible or any religious tome, you're also dealing with an infinite number of contradictions and illusions. Whose Bible is the one that's moral? Whose Bible is the one that speaks the truth? I mean, there is no way in for any intelligent discussion or debate or even analysis of what are my moral choices, what are the outcomes of my moral choices, are they in fact moral?
But at least there's something. Well, I want to get you in on this, because you grew up in a relatively religious background, right? Your family.
Yeah.
And so, what would your family members, the people in your community you grew up in the church, think of atheists alleging that they have a better morality because it's based on reason and seeking truth, and not just accepting dogma as it's hand delivered by somebody from the Stone Age?
I definitely think the word atheist scares people. They're like, it's like anarchist, or there's just a lot of miseducation around what that is.
A lot of demonizing.
And a lot of demonizing. But I think Steven Weinberg actually said it really well when he said that there has always been good people doing good things and evil people doing evil things, but that it takes religion for good people to do evil things. And I think that's what happens, is it confuses the situation, and you take what is inherently people want to be good for the most part, I think, and it can confuse depending on different dogmas and whatever tradition they grow up in and how extreme it is and what that leads to.
One of the issues is that you're talking about the Bible as some sort of a guidebook or some sort of a code. Well, okay, is it moral then to give your daughter to a marauding group of strangers that show up at your door? Is it moral to ostracize menstruating women? I mean, all that's in that same Bible.
Well, they got a couple of points there.
So my point is that it's all, there is no guideline there. As we all know, anyone can pick anything from the Bible to justify any action they so choose. So there is no guidebook there. If anything, there's just it's a clusterfuck, really. But the other side of that, I'd love to hear that in Italian, by the way. But the other side of that is the other side of that is that none of these dogmatic religious doctrines or any morality ascribed to them come without institutions and without the institutionalization of those ideas. And as soon as you enter into institutions, you end up in the situation that Emma was talking about, that Weinberg comments on. You end up with a group of people following an ideology, and right off the bat, there's questionable morality involved.
But is that true? I mean, wouldn't people who are religious, wouldn't they say, no, it's not. You don't understand the Bible. This is delivered from God. This is a guidebook. We do follow it. And various people would say, I guess if you're more moderate,
well, that means no sex before marriage. That means it means all kinds of things that most moderates, as Todd refers to, don't really adhere to anyway.
No,
so it's all just a big
workarounds.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a big canard.
I think religion pretty much hijacked morality that's inherent already to people. Yes. We have mirror neurons that we've evolved to be social creatures. If I see you get stabbed in the arm neurons in me light up and I'm affected by it. We inherently want to help each other, work in groups, and I don't think that takes religion. I think that It's just how we are.
There is a lot of scientific evidence that we do, in fact, that we are, in fact, empathic beings. And I believe that a great deal of our morality probably stems from that. That's why most people aren't going around killing each other all the time. Most people aren't going around looking for conflicts. Most people, regardless of whether they're atheist or believe in a religious dogma, most people really genuinely want a very moral existence. We are empathic. In fact, when we are devoid of empathic impulses, we're pathologized.
Right.
And we see it in animals too. This is not even unique to humans, which I think shows that it has evolved that way.
Well, Daniele, you seem like you were shaking your head a little bit at Paul. Do you think that it's sort of like a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? Which came first, religion or morality? And people who are religious.
I don't agree.
Well, I know, but you can have an opinion about it. I'm just saying there's debate where people who are religious would say we even if you think that that morality predated religion, that the Bible just sort of codifies what we really believe, and then it gives you a guidebook of what to do based on that. Or if you're a humanist, you say.
Except that none of that is true.
Leave the Bible out.
It doesn't codify anything. It codifies whatever any given structure decides it codifies.
Listen, I agree, because I think the Bible is a great guide, except that everything in it has an asterisk next to it. But
Right, and that's part of there's a juicy story that in my mind captures it perfectly. There's like the archetypal moment in Western religion, 10 Commandments, God hands out the 10 Commandments to Moses. Foundational thing in all Western religions, but the part that's really juicy, where it gets interesting, is what happens right afterwards. Because what happens right afterwards is Moses come down the mountain, realize that among Jewish people, a whole bunch of them have reverted to polytheism. What to do? So he gathers his loyalists and say, look, some of these guys are our friends, our neighbors, they are family, but they are worshiping other gods. What can we do? So get your swords, let's go from one side of the camp to another and kill them all.
Sure.
Exactly.
So
it was the first Syria.
Right, and why are you killing them? You're killing them because they are not honoring the God who just told you that you're not supposed to murder people.
Yeah.
So clearly you should murder them,
Sure.
right?
Well,
I mean, if that's not moral relativism, I don't know what moral relativism is. It's like that's clearly you have a law right there about not killing people well, except if you don't honor that one God, in which case it clearly is legitimate.
And that really is a parable for institutionalized religion.
Well, then they make a distinction between killing and murdering, which are apparently two different things.
But again, that's where it becomes
Yeah.
the whole moral relativistic line becomes you make it say whatever you want. It's
Right.
like
well, I find one thing that I thought interesting that there's I don't know my Bible that well, but there's a portion of it where it says you're not supposed to cut your hair. And I thought, well, if you're really going to follow the Bible and you can't cut your hair, because it says you can't cut your hair, and so I like, well, what do people say when who cut their hair who are adherents of the Bible? And so I looked it up and online, and there was a guy describing, well, it turns out that was referred to this other tribe that cut their hair, and God didn't like them, so he told these people that his chosen people, you don't cut your hair because that's going to differentiate you. Since those people who cut their hair aren't around anymore, now it's okay to cut your hair. And it's this whole convoluted argument explaining why you don't have to follow that one thing in the Bible. Exactly. It's like, so everything has wiggle room except you can't be gay, because it says clearly in the Bible you can't be gay, and there's no asterisk on that, and no abortion, even though that's not in the Bible anywhere. But those are the only two things that you have to follow the Bible on.
But you can kill your son if you hear a voice telling you to.
right.
Well, come close. God will intervene.
It's very important. Once again, I think you're doing something that happens all the time, which is problematic, and that is that you're conflating morality with religion. So you have yourself slipped into the fallacy there. As Emma mentioned so clearly and perfectly, religion has hijacked morality. Mm-hmm. It is not responsible for morality. It is not the end-all and be-all. It doesn't have answers regarding any definitive morality. It has simply hijacked and claimed that it has morality.
But it doesn't. You don't like religion very much, Paul.
Well, I'm not cutting my hair specifically.
But other than that, that's the one thing.
Jesus. It's also, as Todd Stiefel says in the video you played, an atheist morality, a non-theist morality, is inclusive. Mm-hmm. Religious morality is divisive. Religious morality is always about who is the other. They are the immoral ones or the amoral ones. Atheistic morality, non-theistic morality has no such caveats.
Mm-hmm. That's where I mildly disagree, in the sense that there are plenty of totalitarian freaks among people who don't necessarily believe that it's just God whispering to them the way it is. There are people that you don't follow my version of communism. Your version of communism is slightly different. So you clearly have to kill it off because there's only one right way and it's ours. So I feel that even
that's
though...
not a representation of non-theism. That is a representation of a political and cultural and social and economic paradigm. That's not a manifestation of a morality. When people conflate atheism with communism, Stalinism, all that sort of stuff, I mean, atheism is number 75 on the list of what the concerns are, what the motivation of that kind of a movement is.
No, in fact, I'm not saying that that's the cause of it. I'm saying, but just because you're not in the theistic camp doesn't make you necessarily on the good moral camp.
Correct.
There are many ways to be
Be a dogmatic asshole, even if you don't believe in God. It's possible.
Absolutely.
Totally.
That's why it's very important to not conflate these issues and separate religion, morality, and personality and individual responsibility.
Right, before we go, we're almost done with the segment. I got to wrap up, but I wanted to ask you, as he closes his point, Todd, he talks about how atheists, secularists, skeptics need to come out and be loud and proud, and we're here and we're clear. Get used to it. And I think part of that is because atheists sort of tend to revert to themselves and don't want to be out there about it, because not only are we widely reviled, but also because it's like, I don't want to go and be public about something I don't believe in. I don't go and shout in the public square, I don't believe in aliens, I don't believe in mole people living under the earth.
It's being defined by a negative.
But he's saying we have to do that. We have to go out and seize the public square. And that's what, I guess, part of what the American Humanist Association does.
Yeah, they're big into that. And I think, and not just for the sake of just doing that, but also what like Greg Epstein is doing at Harvard too, is working with faith-based communities and people, so that it's not just to be like, we don't believe this and F you. It's now, let's get on with it. What's the good work that we need to be doing to help our societies move forward and to help people after Hurricane Katrina or after whatever's going on at the time.
To do good work
in the community,
be
just
but
that
charitable
it doesn't,
as atheists. Don't just go and
that
do
it doesn't
your charity.
have to be for any other reason than because you want to be a good person doing good things. And Foundation Beyond Belief does the same thing, works with communities to help do all kinds of programs all over the world as of now to help people get out of poverty and education. And so I think the more that they see humanists and atheists and free thinkers and skeptics and everyone that's involved in that community doing good things and joining in projects with faith-based communities or not, it will lessen the stigma of what it means right now to be an atheist.
Well, that was sort of one of the great outcomes of the Reason Rally, which was just having people celebrate free thought and non-belief in terms of what that means as an identity. And it was amazing. By some accounts, as many as 30,000 people standing in the pouring rain. The vibe was unbelievable. It was an extraordinary event to be at. Anyone who was there can tell you what it felt like to be there, because there was no agenda other than just celebrating in front of the institutions of our government, who are falling prey to the Christian right all the time, to be able to stand there and go, you know what, politically we're not even all the same, but we all agree in separation of church and state, a real moral approach to education and public policy, all that sort of stuff. The identity of atheist is I only accept it happily because it does have political implications right now. Right. We are living in a country that is prey to religious fundamentalism.
I get it. Prey. All right, we got to wrap up. I'm sorry, we got to wrap up. But thank you. And so the point is from Todd and from us that if you're an atheist, go out there and be charitable, be open about it. And as you're serving the soup in the soup kitchen, hand it over to that person and say, there is no God, there is no God, there is no God.